Hey everyone, welcome back to the Budget Mechanic. If it's your first time here, thanks so much for joining us. At the Budget Mechanic, we work on all your things related to budget, fixing everything from minor items all the way up to revamping. As always, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and the notification bell to be notified of new videos. In today's video, I'm going to introduce you to one of the budgeting software that is available out there. It is called YNAB, and it stands for You Need a Budget, YNAB. And this is really the app that got me started on my budgeting journey, really getting our finances back in order. And a lot of the things that I talk about come from using it there, researching it, taking my experiences. I think it'll be a really great way to be engaged with your budget, to have flexibility because you can use it online and in an app on your phone. The more you're engaged with your budget, the more likely it is you're going to stick with it and the more likely you'll reach your goals. It does have a free 34-day trial. You do not require to put your credit card in at all, so you can be confident that you can use it, see if you like it. If not, you can then delete all your info and you never have to worry about being charged for it. Some people might think it's a little bit more on the expensive side, but I do think that it's well worth the price. So with that, I will then take you on a tour of YNAB and do the basic setup. And here we are. We are now at the youneedabudget.com website. And this is where you can go and you can do the free trial for 34 days. When you get on here, you can try YNAB for free for 34 days. And you'll note here, free trial, no credit card is required. As we've said, this is the great thing about YNAB. You can try it for the 34 days. If you don't like it, you can delete all the information. They will not keep it. So I've already created this initial. And so I would start my free trial. And then what will happen is we will have the terms of service, read through them all the way down, and then click agree. And once you're in, you'll get a welcome to YNAB and you're going to get started. Now you can have these, it's up to yourself whether or not you want to provide those information. A lot of times is to say, we can say paying off debt, or you can skip it. And then you'll click next, and then they ask if you're going solo or budgeting with somebody. Click the ones that are applicable to you. I'm going to go solo and a regular schedule, and I'll click next. And then they'll send you information based on those questions to help you along your journey. So you'll click done. Now you'll notice up here, you can add a new account, and that's how you can start. And it has a little sequence of events up here that'll help you with getting budgeting. So we're going to click start, and it'll allow us to come down here on the left and click add an account. I'm going to click add account. Now these are the accounts that you have money in, your checking account, savings account. There are two different ways you can add an account in here. One is linked, and linked, if you click on that, it's only available in the US and Canada. But what it allows you to do is actually add the connection to your bank and automatically import your information. And it will tell you that it uses Plaid, which is their third-party provider, to import your transactions, and you have to click agree. And then you would select your bank. So you can go through and select the bank that you want. So if I had a Scotia bank, I can click that. And then I would provide my credentials, and it will then link to your bank and enable that import. So I'm going to create an unlinked account. And so in an unlinked account, you will manually enter all your transactions. You will check your accounts manually to do reconciliations at the appropriate time. However, you can also do an import via Excel or a .csv file into here. So what type of account are you adding? So you'll click it and it'll tell you the different types that are available: checking, savings, cash, credit card, line of credit. So these are the budget ones. These are the ones that we're going to be using usually on a daily basis or within the next year or two if they're a savings type. The other type is a tracking account, which are on the bottom, and we'll leave those for later. So we're going to use a checking account, and so I will give it a name and I will call it my CIBC checking account, and I will put in the current balance, which I will say is $1,500. So that is your bank balance today. So if I were to open up my bank online and see, that is the balance that it is today. You can edit it later if you need to, but it's best if you use today. And then I'll click next, and that was successful. Now I can add another account right away by clicking on add another account. I'm going to click done to show you what happens. So I've created my checking account for CIBC. It's $1,500. And when you're in the account view, you'll see the checking account. My starting balance is $1,500. If I come up to my budget, it will show me that I have $1,500 in my budget. And that's how much money I have to budget to all of my categories. So we're going to go ahead and add another account here. Again, it's going to be unlinked, and this time I'm going to have a savings account, and I'm going to call it my CIBC savings, and I'm going to say it has $500, and then I'm going to add another one, another savings account, and I'm going to call it my TFSA, which is a tax-free savings account in Canada, and it's going to have $500 in it as well. And I'm going to say that I'm done, and then it's saying you've added a savings account, and that money is part of your budget, and looks like I got a key next step over there. And so this is a key part that a lot of people don't understand when they first start YNAB, is when you put your savings on, you are putting it into your budget. You're going to give it a job. Now its job is savings. And that's where people get confused, because often they think of their budget as these are the expenses I'm going to have and I set aside my savings. In YNAB, you set it aside by saying this is the category or the expense that I want it to be, and it grows over time. All right, so when we look at my budget, I have $2,500, which is the amount of the 3 accounts altogether here on the left, as you can see. Now, the next thing that YNAB recommends is to setting a goal. When you're first learning YNAB, the goals might not operate exactly how you think they should operate, and so my recommendation is to not set these goals up right now, but to leave them and go on to them later on once you've become more comfortable. There's an alternate way we can show what we want to set aside, and we'll get to that when we start doing some of these categories. We'll click on start to set a goal, and it gives you some information. So what it does is it takes an example. So here's your software subscriptions, and it says you're saving for your YNAB subscription for next month. And what you would do is you would put in the amount, they click the type of goal. And so there are 3 types of goal needed for spending, target saving balance, and monthly savings builder. And again, this is part of the reason why I don't recommend putting these goals in here, because you have to really understand them. And then you can click by the date. So this is for needed for spending. So I could make it a monthly goal and say by the end of the month I need to have that. I can have my weekly, and I can have by date. So if I need it for July 1st. I can also repeat these goals. Again, this is where it can get complicated on the transition month. But once I have that information filled in, I'm going to click Save Goal. And we have our software subscriptions. You can see I have no money budgeted. There's that orange warning. And if I click on it, on the right-hand side, it tells me I have a spending goal that I want to have $83.99 there by July 1st. It's 0% funded, and that I have to budget $42 more to be on track. So it's saying I need $42 this month, $42 next month, and that will cover my goal. I think they're a use it later. So the next thing I would actually recommend is doing the budget. So with budgeting, we're going to give all of the money in our to be budgeted a job. So we're going to click start, and the money is ready in your accounts to assign. And as your budget, your goal is to get this number to 0. All right. So it's an envelope system. So this is the pile of money I have, and these are all the envelopes or categories that I'm going to put in. I'm giving all of my expenses that I have between now and when I'm going to see money again, jobs. So let's say my rent is going to be due, so I'm going to say $950. And what happens is I have the $950. It says my available amount in here is $950, and my to be budgeted has been dropped by that $950. And it's just going to pop over and say the same thing, my available, and then I keep repeating it. So I can keep doing this. Now, one thing that we have over here is our savings account. So that CIBC savings and our TFSA on the left are $500. So a lot of people, what they'll want to do is take those dollars and put them into a savings account so that they aren't used to budget for expenses. So a lot of times it'll be down here in your quality of life goals, which is a default of YNAB. You can change any of these as you want. So let's say I have been saving up for a vacation, and that's what this $500 represents. I will take $500 and put it in my vacation. And if I have my TFSA, I want to say what I'm actually saving it for. And this is again where YNAB differs, is we really want to say, what is that $500 for? Not just set it aside, because a lot of times when you set aside that $500, it could be for your car breaking down. It could be to fix something in your house. It could be, and then it has multiple jobs. But over time, using YNAB, you can set it aside in these different categories, and then you start to have less emergencies that you have to cover. Let's say, for example, in our TFSA, we want to put some of that money in, it's to replace our computer. We've saved up $250 towards the replacement of our computer, and maybe we've started saving towards taking some education. So we'll put $250 towards education. So now I have $550 left to be budgeted, and so I would again go through and see which things I have to pay before I get paid again. So let's say I have my electric bill is due and my internet was due for $100, and I need to buy some groceries, so I set aside $200, and you'll notice my to be budgeted keeps coming down by that amount. Say I have some gifts that have to be bought, so I put $50 aside for that. Looking at all of this and going, I'm not sure what else I have to budget for because I'm new, I'm starting. You can use this category called stuff I forgot to budget for. And what we can do is we'll put that remaining $150 in there, the stuff I forgot to budget for. When something comes up, I don't actually record anything against this category, but it becomes like a little envelope of money, and I say, oh, okay, I have $150 between now and when I get paid again. Let's say I had to buy a new work shirt and it was $50. I can take the money from my stuff I forgot to budget for and move it to my clothing. There's a couple of ways I can do that. I could just put $50 here, and then it'll give me a warning that I'm over budgeted. And then I would take away the $50 here. So I can either just write $100, or I can actually use the plus minus divide minus $50, and it will take $100, and then my to be budgeted is balanced again because I've moved the $50 from my stuff to my that I forgot to my clothing. The other way I could move my money is I can come to what I have available, click on it, and it tells me how much I have available to move. So let's say I want to take another $50, and then I can choose the category I need to move it to. Let's say maybe my water came due, and I click OK. And what that does is it takes $50 from stuff I forgot to budget for, and if I scroll up, it moved that $50 to my water. Now the next thing that they ask you to do is scheduling a future transactions, and you'll have less stress and a simpler budget. So we're going to start that. The transaction is actually recording the things that are happening in your checking account, your savings account, that you have a good view of what your balances are at any given time. Click on add transaction. And once I have my add transaction, it's going to come in here, and I'm going to have the date, and it'll automatically default to today's date. And then I can, so let's say I know that my electricity bill is going to come in next week. So I can click on the 21st. Now, if I know it comes in every month on the 21st, I can use this repeat feature. So down at the bottom, I can do it daily, weekly, every other week, twice a month, every 4 weeks, or monthly, so that it would be monthly on the 21st. So I click monthly and I click next. And then what I would do is I put my payee in here. Now I haven't set up any payees. Payees is the company or vendor you're going to pay. So I'm going to call it the electricity company, and I am going to budget it to the electric bill. So that is my electric. I could put a memo in here if I need to put a memo. And then I'm going to say that I anticipate it's $50. Now the nice thing is I can put this in for my estimated amount, and then when I get the actual bill, I can come back in here and adjust that amount. And then once I have everything completed, I make sure that's in the outflow, so that's money going out of my account, and then I can click save. And then it's going to say in this one, it's a future transaction. So today is the 13th, it's going to happen on the 21st. So it's not actually in my budget yet, but I've set it aside. And now it's going to show me how we can do that transaction, help you budget. So what happens is it's going to bring us back to this main budget page, and we're going to be in the electric category. So you can see up here on the right, it says electric. It shows how they impact your budget. So in this case, it's the electric. So if I come up here, I can see that it's been selected. And what I'll have, I don't have a goal. So my available balance is I had no money from last month. I've budgeted $50. I have no spending yet on either cash or credit. So I have $50 available. And then just below here, you can see in the green, I have one upcoming transaction for $50, and then available after upcoming is 0. So that helps if you've started budgeting and then you can see, hey, I don't have enough budgeted. Maybe I spent more than I anticipated. This is also very helpful if you have a category that has multiple transactions coming out of it, your software subscriptions, things like that. The other thing I can do is I can click on the upcoming transaction, and then it'll tell me exactly what that transaction is. And if I wanted to, I can click right on it and it'll take me to that transaction and I can see it. And then we're going to come back to the main budget screen. So that walks you through how YNAB wants you to go through. You're a budgeter. And now I can hide this at the top, and we'll go through some different things that you can do. So as we mentioned, we've got our budget items on the left-hand side here, and we have our budget. Now you'll notice that we have our budget here with, this is called a category group. This section here, if I click on it, that is a category group. And then underneath it, I have, these are called categories or your expense. And so I can group multiple categories under a group, and that helps with budgeting because you can see you can group things and then move them around to help you put them in higher visibility or not. So a lot of people will like to put things that they're going to pay all the time right away at the top, and maybe some of their more savings type ones farther down. You can also rearrange this however you want. And that's the beauty of it. That's that personalization. It gives you a structure to use, but you can personalize this. So a lot of people will change immediate obligations into monthly expenses, and it's as simple as that. You click on the name of the group, it'll pop up, and you can just retype over there with its new name, click OK, and now it's called my monthly expenses. Now if I look at these ones underneath my monthly expenses, and let's say interest and fees is not one that I want to put under there, I could take this and drag it to another group. So let's say I want to have it as part of my true expenses, drag and drop. If I want to have it in here, but I want to call it a different name, again, I can click on it and I highlight it, and then I can call it just interest, and I click OK. So when I was talking before about not using goals, one of the things that you can do to help in here is you can actually put your due date on that category and the amount. So let's use the example of rent or mortgage. I'm going to click on it and I'm just going to call it rent, and I'm going to say it's due on the 1st and the amount is $950. So I can then see quickly that the rent is the 1st, it's $950, and I can always see where I sit in relation to that. I can do the same thing on my electric. We said it was on the 21st and it's for $50. And let's say the water is on the 15th and it is $75. I can see that. I can then see it's 75. I only have 50 set aside. And so I might want to make adjustments. The other thing that you can do that is very helpful is that a lot of people will then take it and drag them in the order so that I have the rent on the 1st, the 15th, the 21st, and so on down the road. So you can make those changes as well. And then I can come down, and again, true expenses in YNAB terms is where you start to build money towards things that happen, maybe not on a regular basis, but things that you need to start accounting for and really start building up. So a really great example is gifts. So we know we have gifts. A lot of people will also put in a Christmas category. So let's add that. We put in Christmas and it'll always default up to the top. And we know happens every year, but you can figure out how much you want to put into Christmas. So monthly, and let's say you need to put $100 every month into Christmas. If you wanted to use the goals, so you could use the goal on this, you can create a Christmas goal. And so you would click on the goal amount here on the right. You would say you want $600, and you want to have, you can do one of two things. You can do the needed for spending. So you can have $600 and you want it by November 30th. This is why you want to be careful. If you do it for December, repeating it goes. So I save goal. And so what it's saying is I need to have $600 by November 30th. I need to budget $100 to stay on track. You can also regroup. So one of the things is that I do or have done is I create a category group, and let's call it food, and it will pop up at the very top here. So food. And then what I do is I move my groceries into the food category. I move my food into there, and I can move my dining out as well by just picking it up and again sliding up. And then I can move my food category down as well, so that I can see them easily and open them up as well. So that's a lot of the things. So you can play with this as much as you want to, move things around, tell it different things. Now another neat little tool you'll have here as well is you can always do a reset available amounts. So if you've got to start again and you've gotten all confused and you're not sure where you're sitting, I can click on reset my available amounts. So that'll reset this, our right column, this available column right here, and it will move all of the money in here and move it up. If you're still fairly new and starting, not a problem. If you've gotten money saved up over time, the other option you would want to do is reset your budgeted amounts. So that is this first column. So that's the money you've budgeted this month. Click our reset budget amounts and it will tell you that it'll reset it to 0, and I click OK. And now it's moved that $2,500 back up to the top, and I can go through and reset things. So I can see again, I could then fund my subscriptions. I could fund my Christmas that I have, and you'll see it's green and it's saying I'm on track. And the same thing with my software. The little icon beside them tells you how far along your goal are. So this is halfway, and this one is very small amount. It's only 16% funded. So I can go along and I can add everything that I need in here. Now, how do I record transactions? Because what I want to see now is my activity. So I have my budgeted amount, and then I have this activity column here at the top middle. That activity is a summary of all the transactions that are happening in that account, have happened in that account, and then it tells me am I available. And so whenever I'm going to purchase something, you want to check in with your budget and see, do I have money available? If I don't have money available, so let's say I had somebody asked me to do some giving and I have nothing budgeted right now, I need to come in here and say, okay, I don't have any giving. Either I choose not to do a give, or I have to go and say, okay, I'm going to take some of the money out of my gifts and move that to the giving category. Let's go in and let's go into CIBC checking, and let's say I am going to record that I had my gift purchase. So again, it will always default to today. And if you need to move forward, you can, or if you missed it, you can back up a date. And I'm going to call this the gift shop, and I'm going to give it the category of gifts. Now, YNAB will remember that this gift shop is used for gifts. So it will default in the future. If I don't want to do that, you can turn it off. And then I can put my memo, and let's say it's my spouse's birthday and I ended up spending $45.67. Save. So now you can see that I have this item in here. Now, one of the things I can do on here as well to help is I can do view running balance, and that adds a column here, and now I can see that in my checking account, instead of $1,500, I have $1,454.33. And so this balance should always match the balance of my checking account. There could be a delay, but that's where we then come up here and I have my cleared balance. So I agree, that's what's in my bank. Uncleared means I haven't reconciled to the bank, and this is my working balance. So if you've ever worked with checks in your life, this is be checks that you've written that haven't yet cashed. And so because I'm not using a linked account, I then know that in this bank account, I really only have $1,400 and change instead of $1,500. And then when I come back up to my budget, if I go to my gifts category, I can see that I had $50 set aside, and I have now spent $45.67. So I have $4.33 left to spend in that category. And as I said, now this activity that's happened this month, I can click on that activity. It'll tell me what it is. And if I have multiple transactions, it would tell me all of those transactions, and I can scroll through them. And you can see on the right, you can now see that that's changed as well. It's taking the summary. So this will sum it up for all of them. If I click on it, I can then also see that I had budgeted that I can have cash spending versus credit spending. I don't have a credit card on this account yet, but I can do that as well. To add your known paycheck dates. So if you are on a regular schedule and you're paid bi-weekly, bi-monthly, or weekly, you can set up each of those transactions so that you can see them. Now, if your income is variable, you can still input these, but you would put a 0 in the inflow amount, and then you can update that as they come in. Let's say that you are paid on the Friday every 2 weeks. So that's a very common schedule. So I would click on the 25th and you'll see the date has updated, and I would say employer. So I would usually put the employer name, and then the category is to be budgeted. And then I will put in that, and let's say my inflow is $1,500. Now this is every 2 weeks. So under the date, I would put it in here, and I would click on this every 4 weeks. The reason I'm going to do that is I'm going to set up a transaction for this one that occurs every 4 weeks. And then my payment that comes in, the next one, I will set up as another one for every 4 weeks. because that way it will allow me to see both of the bi-weekly transactions in a month. If I only set this up and had it occur every 2 weeks, then I can only see that transaction at a time. It won't show me both. So I would click every 4 weeks and my amount, and I can click on save, and you'll see my employer here, and then I'm going to add a transaction and I can move forward. And so the 9th of July would be the next payday. And now what it does is it starts to say, here's my payees I have, so I can click employer. Remember I said it remembers what my category is, and my inflow is going to be $1,500, but I needed to come back here, and this one is going to repeat every 4 weeks, and I click save. And so now what it does is it shows me the next occurrence, and I can see my next 2 paychecks coming out. If I was paid weekly, I would do the same thing, but I would do 4 transactions, each occurring 1 month every 4 weeks. You can keep adding all of your known transactions. They are really handy to have. So you can adjust any of these things as needed when you have the transaction. Once you reconcile your account, you won't be able to. So as long as it's clear in here, and we'll talk about reconciliation in a different video, but that's how you add transactions, and you just would keep adding transactions as they occur. If you are not from the US or Canada, or you want to change some settings, you can also do that here by clicking on the drop down arrow, coming to budget setting. I can give it a name. I can say my best life. I can change my default currency, so I can change this to the Canadian dollar. They do have common ones at the top here: US, UK, Canadian, Australian, Euro. So I can choose Canadian dollar. I can also adjust the number format. You can choose whichever number format you want. You can also change the currency placement to before, after, or not display at all. And as well, I can change the number format. I am a day, month, year person, and then I click apply settings, and it will always do this when it applies new settings, and it makes those changes. For me, very little looks different because the US Canadian, but you'll see my dates are changed on the left hand side. So far I've shown you checking and savings accounts. I also want to now add a credit card, and I want to show you how it looks a little bit different and things you have to consider. So we're going to add account. Again, we're going to do unlinked, and the type we're going to click on here is credit card, and then I'm going to give it a nickname. For this sake, I'm going to give it a Visa. And for this one, I'm going to say it has a 0 balance. It's a card I'm not using right now, but I'm going to be using it. 0 balance, and I can click on next. And then I'm going to show you what has now happened. So I have my Visa with my starting balance of 0. If I come up to my budget, here's something that always happens. You have your Visa. Now you have a new category called credit card payments. You cannot change it. You cannot rename it. You can't delete it. You can hide them if you no longer use them. And that is because it's defaulted to the credit card. And then if I add another credit card, and this time it is my MasterCard, and I'm going to say it has $500 balance on here, it will operate a little differently. So it has an existing balance, and you have some different options. You can create a goal to pay it off over time. You can budget your entire balance, or you can skip it. It's up to you. It can be a little confusing. So as you get to learn this, sometimes it's better to skip for now. And the reason I say this is because if you are somebody who pays off your entire credit card, but doesn't realize that you're actually using next month's income to pay for it, the goals and budgeting for it can be a little confusing at first because you'll pick the wrong one. So I'm just going to skip this, and then I'm done. And again, so you can see my MasterCard, and it's in negative because this is money that I owe to somebody else. I owe it to the credit card company. So it's not positive. And then if I come to the budget, I can see my MasterCard is here. It has no money set aside for it because there's no payment on it. And eventually what you want to have happen is you want your credit card balance here to be the opposite of, you want $500 to be here. So if I knew I have $500 already set aside to pay the card, I would put 500. I would have to take the 500 from somewhere else. So if I think I have it, but I do this and I can see that my to be budgeted is negative 500, then I am writing what YNAB calls the credit card float. And what that means is I'm using next month's income to pay this. So I'm going to zero that out, and then I would have to make a plan. And so now that we have the credit card set up on YNAB, I want to show you what happens when you pay for an item using your credit card. When you're using YNAB, what it does is as you do a transaction, so I have $400 here in my groceries. If I make a purchase using my credit card, it'll take whatever I've used on my credit card. So let's say I use $50, and it will move it from this category up to my credit card payment. And basically it's saying you've taken $500 out of groceries. You didn't pay the grocery store, but you want to take that money and set it aside to pay the credit card company when your statement comes due. So I will show you that by going on to our MasterCard. Say tomorrow we go to the grocery store, and this is groceries, and I'm going to use it to pay $50 worth of groceries. I can click save. We'll do that today so it works. So when it first does this, it'll show you exactly what it's doing. Is it's moved the money from groceries up to your credit card payment. The other thing it'll do is it'll show me up on the upper right here that I have $50 available for the payment and that I have this transaction. It hasn't cleared I haven't approved it, so it's sitting here. And if I go to my budget, I will now see that my MasterCard is $50. It has $50 here to pay. I have an activity of $50, and we'll get into the details on what happens here in this activity in another video. But now I have $50 set aside to pay towards my credit card, and I can continue doing that. I can treat my MasterCard the same. I can do scheduled transactions. So like we set up on the checking account, if you have your cell phone bill or anything coming off your credit card, you can set that up as well to be scheduled on it. And so that is an overall tutorial about how to start with YNAB setting. It's a really great tool. It does take a little bit, so feel free to come back to the tutorial and go through the different parts again. We will do different videos later on to go through other parts of it as well. And I just feel like it really fits with the budgeting philosophy I have, and I've really used it to influence how I look at my finances. So anyways, that's all we have for today. So thanks for joining us. If you like this video, don't forget to hit the like button and the notification and subscribe. Thanks, and we'll see you again soon.